Let's start with your name.
Okay, my name is Cruz Camargo Acosta. I'm a direct descendant of the Manso tribe or the Manso nation. Originally the name was Tampachoa is written in the old Spanish. I was born in Juarez, but most of my relatives or my ancestors come from New Mexico. Like my grandfather from Chamberino, New Mexico, my great-grandfather from Chamberino, and my grandmother, she was a Suma from the Mimbres corridor, and my great-grandmother from the Piro people from Socorro, but also have relatives in Santo Domingo, Pueblo. The Abieta family, and on my grandmother's side it's Zamora and Carvajal. But since we follow the lineage from the grandfathers, it's all Manso. My father, a Manso, full-blooded, my grandfather, my great-grandfather. And we end up, like me, I was born in Juarez, but since they were farmers in this valley, and the families were growing, and sometimes they had to separate to leave some of the farming land to the others. So some of the ones that were getting married, they were looking for another spot, another place where to farm or make their village. Where I was born on the other side of the river, up until 1965, there was still an Indian village, still standing there, with the chozas, with some of the artifacts, the pots, bows and arrows and all that. And my father was trying to save it, from us to going around and loot it or break them all, playing around. So he was protecting all those artifacts. And one day, one of the anthropologists was looking for Manso descendants just around 1965. And he was asking for the people there, in Juarez, if anybody knew about any Mansos or Manso descendants. He was around in San Lorenzo. My father was there with some of the other people, they used to get together, some of the elders, and talk about, history and all that. And he came by and asked if they knew any one of, it was a Manso or Manso descendant. And my father said, I am a Manso. And then, he started, asking questions. His name is Nicholas Hauser. He's an anthropologist. He came from Phoenix, Arizona. And by that time, they were getting the Tiwas here in El Paso, getting them raised, recognized. And so my father took him over there to the farm, and he started talking. He didn't trust him at first very, very much, but then after they started, exchanging some of the conversation on that, why he was looking for descendants and all that. Then he told him, I still have my chozas, some of the pottery that my ancestors left me, And he took him to show it to him. And the chozas were still standing there. And all the big ollas, the Indian hats, the jacalitos, some bows and arrows. And plus also he started, telling him about some of the ceremonies that we used to do, some of the chantings, some of the stories, how to get in a circle and all that, how the village was formed there. And he said, I'm gonna come back, to check all these artifacts and all that, and we need some equipment for the recordings. And he said, oh, okay, that's fine. So they came back again with some, some recording equipment and, some equipment to check the authenticity of those artifacts and everything. Yeah, they found that they were, original. And my father, the anthropologist and the other people said, what he was gonna do with it. And he said, my father said, no, I just wanted to be safe, to be placed in a museum. But don't you want anything on, on return, something? Like you wanna sell, get some money? No, I'm not selling it. I just want it to be preserved. So you can take him, but the only thing I want you to give me is because I'm gonna be donating all these artifacts, the Manso legacy and all that, as a tribute to President John F. Kennedy. This was in 1965 when he did that, and it was 2 years after the John F. Kennedy assassination. So he wanted to pay tribute to John F. Kennedy and give it as a gift, to the university and all that. So, yeah, he said, I just wanna have the Kennedy family to know that I'm doing this on his memory. And Mr. Tom Diamond, he was taking care of the legal work and all the papers and all that. And then he said, I'll take care of that. And because he even was offered to have a house there close to UTEP, so the student will go and talk to him. He said, no, this is my house. If you want to ask me questions, I want to talk to me, they can come here to the farm and all that. Later on, he got a letter handwritten from Robert Kennedy, his brother. He was a senator at that time. Yeah, I guess so. Senator. And I keep that letter, thanking him of that generous gift as a memory of John F. Kennedy.
Where are those things wound up in?
Well, a lot of those artifacts, they were taken to the University of Phoenix, to the museum there. And then they had them there for some time. And they were supposed to be sent back, and they sent them back to El Paso. But they said they put some of the artifacts in the cultural center with the Chihuahuas, and some others went to the Museum of History, but I haven't seen any of those. I've seen other pottery, some other things, but not those ones. And it seems like they got lost. Yeah.
It seems like what we call the Manso people, they covered an area that included El Paso, Las Cruces, and even more than that.
Oh yes, the Manso territory was like Juarez, El Paso, the whole valley on the south, all the way up north to Hatch, New Mexico, to the Florida mountains. The Oregon mountains and the Franklin mountains used to be called the Sierra de los Mansos. So since they were like farmers, they used to farm by the valleys, by the river. And that's why they got that name, the original name Tampachoa, that means Tapanco. And they used to block the rivers because they used to call them blockers of the river. And they will make some dams and to divert the water flow, and leave some islands, and use those islands for farming because it was very fertile. So they will, grow some corn, squash, and beans.
So this was before there were tiwas or piros in the area.
Yeah, this was before the Tiwas and the Pilos, they were brought to Paso del Norte when the Indian revolt. And then they got them all together, but not really. They try to kind of put them in different places and different pueblos. And then they started building like the missions. Thank you. And the mission of Guadalupe was dedicated to the Mansos, and but also this was built after the Indian revolt. I guess the Indian revolt was in
1680.
1680.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, I was confused. But they brought some families, some Piro families, you know, from Socorro, from the north. But also some other people from other tribes too, they were brought here to El Paso, where they had the forts in the Spanish, they call it it was, you know, like presidios and all that. And then when they started building that mission, that first mission of Guadalupe, they had the Piros and the Mansos working together to build that mission. So this mission was built with both tribes, you know. But it was not just for those both tribes, but for all the people that were brought here to this area.
The piros, they're from around the Socorro, New Mexico area.
Yeah, they are from Socorro, New Mexico.
And the tiwas were from around Albuquerque.
Right, a little farther north. Yeah.
Before the Spaniards, before the revolt, was there contact among the Mansos with the Tiwas or the Piros or other Indian tribes?
Oh yeah, they had like trading, okay? This is very important because the Manso is part of the Pueblo people too. All the way from Taos, Santa Fe, all the way down south. But a lot of historians, they only write the history or from I-40 to the north, and there's not much from the south. But even, not just the Mansos here in this area, they were part of the Pueblo. Also, like, was the Lipan Apache used to live by the, what's the name, Pecos River. And then, no, that's the Mescalero Apache, they used to live by there. And then the Lipans, they were a little farther south or closer to San Antonio, to the San Antonio River and some other river. But close to them, they were like also next from the Manso was the Humano, then the Conchos, and then the Cualitecos. And all these tribes used to live by the rivers. And all these tribes used to trade with all the rest of the pueblos. So they are part of Pueblo too. The Apaches, even nobody, they think they were just fighters or nomads and all that. But they used to farm too, especially the Mescalero and Lipan Apaches. So all those people live by the rivers and all that. And they used to trade with them.
Initially, when the Spaniards first arrived in Manso territory, was there a battle between Mansos and Spaniards?
Was there a what?
A battle? Was there a
Oh.
war?
No, not really, because when they arrived here in this area, in El Paso area, it was, when they started, you know, coming to colonize and all that, with Juan de Oñate, they arrived here in El Paso Valley there, in San Elizario, around 1598. When they arrived here, you know, the Mansos welcomed them. You know, they offer them food and all that.
This was the first Thanksgiving.
That's why they celebrate the first Thanksgiving even before the pilgrims from Plymouth or the people coming from England. You know? And then they do celebrate that. Also, some others they celebrate like La Toma and all that. You know, they change some things, but This is when they arrive here, and the Indians, the Mansos welcome them. They offer them food and all that, and help them, even though they were betrayed later on.
Uh, when when some of the Tiguas and the Piros and others founded Tortugas, were the Mansos involved in the founding of the settlement of Tortugas?
Okay, this pueblo here in close to Las Cruces, this happened after it was like maybe a second revolt there in Paso del Norte, and a lot of the Indians from that area, they wanted to escape from the Spanish, because they were being enslaved, they put into work. Some of the natives were taken to the mines in Chihuahua, so they tried to escape and they migrated up north to this area because looking for freedom. They knew about this area and all that. They were familiar because they used to come around and trade and all that. So they just wanted to get far from the Spanish there, because they had a lot of control in that area. They were controlling all the other tribes. But when they came up north to this area, there was some people already here in Las Cruces, over there by close to Mesilla. And there's a story that says that some people, they were waiting for the churros to come out of the river to lay their eggs and all that. And people, they knew when the churros will come out of the water to lay their eggs, and they were waiting for them to catch them, for food and all that. So they were hiding, and then they noticed that there was people coming out of the river banks, and they said, "Oh, there's the churros became people," and they stayed there in San Juan Pueblo or Pueblo Tortugas, and that's why they got that name, the Tortugas Pueblo, because of the people that came out of the river banks at the same time when the churros come out. And the people say, maybe there was some ignorance or something, but they said no, the churros became, people, and they celebrated, and they named the little pueblo, Pueblo de Tortugas. That's a story I hear from my, my ancestors and all that, and it's been passed on from generations.
The mountain itself that's near here is called Tortugas Mountain. What relationship do you know that it has to the pueblo or to the Mansos?
Okay, the relation is for the pueblo and the Mansos, but it was not just the Mansos, because was not only Mansos that came up to this area. There was also like Tiguas, Hemex, Piros, and but they continued doing that ceremony, because they used to do it up there in Juarez, and they call the Cerro Bola. They used to do a ceremony where they will make like a bonfire up there and make some pilgrimage to the top of the mountain and do some dance, and then they will make like some crown some with weeds and all that and roll them down the mountain. So that tradition they had there, they brought it here to this area, and they continue with that tradition, with that kind of ceremonies, and they will make a pilgrimage from the Tortugas Pueblo to the A Mountain and do the same kind of ceremonies that they used to do back there in Juarez. Yes.
And, okay, so the pilgrimage to the mountain was brought from that area.
Right, from that area, from Paso del Norte or Juarez now. Yeah.
Why did you as a Manso decide to become part of a tribe that's called the Piro Manso Tiwa tribe?
Okay, because there was a lot of they were all mixed, from different tribes that stay here in this area. So it was like a joint tribal council, from different tribes, and because it was not just from one tribe, or it was from different ones. So they got together. Since they had communication each other, they had training and all that, so they started since they were brought to El Paso, to that area, Paso del Norte, and then they came by themselves here, but they came all together, and they continue with these traditional ceremonies and all that, and that's why they got together to continue with that, but as a single group with 3 different tribes.
So basically, you're just following the tradition since since the 1680s, that these 3 groups have always been working together: the Piros, the Tiwas, and the Mansos.
Yeah, we just continue with the same traditions. We had some of the tradition from the Piro, we had some tradition from the Tiwa, and some of the Manso. But sometimes, like in our, the way we use our regalia or our dressing, on our ribbons, we identify ourselves with different colors depending who you are descending from. But we do the same performance, like the dance, we do the same dances and all that. But only on the ribbons, we see who's Piro and who's Manso.
Today is December 12th, and you are gathered at St. Genevieve's Church. Why did you choose that church as a gathering for your ceremony?
Well, first because we're very more involved with the Christianization, and then also to try to keep our own culture, our own traditions with the dances. Plus, over there in St. Genevieve, there's an very old pueblo, one of the original pueblos here in Las Cruces. And there was a lot of, native people in that spot, in that area. Yeah, or like native descendants and all that.
So, as being a Manso, being a descendant of people that were here, like we could say you were the first before the Spaniards got here, before the white men got here. What is the Manso connection to the cultures that have left petroglyphs and writings on mountains and all the indigenous history in this area? Are the Mansos directly connected to that heritage?
Okay, we are connected in a way because we are descendants of these cultures. We are descendants of the Mogollon culture. We are descendants of the Anasazi culture, even the Hohokam. So tribes or people were always trading, and we're getting intermarried with different other pueblos, different other tribes or pueblos. So because we are not the Manso or the tribes have not always been original of this area. They are not the only ones. We descend from other cultures, other civilizations, we can say, because civilizations, culture move from one place to the other, but especially with those 3 big cultures, with those 3 big civilizations around here in this area. So for me, I say we are descendants of those. We were like getting, intermarried, our ancestors and all that, with different pueblos, with different cultures, and then we are descendants. And some stay here, and some others just migrate to many other different places. Because even we have connections with people from central Mexico, or we have connections in our traditions, in our ceremony, with people from up north, as Canada or Alaska, or with the Lakota, with the Huichol, with many others. There is a lot of connections. Even when the Spaniards arrived here, they didn't come by themselves. They had guides, they had people, native people, who knew how to get here to this land, especially those, what's the name of that tribe? One of those Indians that came with them, it's Tlaxcaltecans. They had Tlaxcaltecans with them because they had connections with the North people. And we had, even the people from here used to go and trade. And they used to learn some of the culture, some of the traditions, and put it together, When they will come, they will, join in our ceremonies and all that, and participate. And they was, like learning from others, and at the same time expanding our traditions, our culture too. But there is connection the whole continent,
Getting down to the personal level, how did you as a child learn that you were a Manso?
Well, when I was a child, I didn't care much, but I used to listen to my father, their stories, because he had some friends from New Mexico, and they used to get together there at the farm and make like storytelling. Used to get together and maybe just drink some coffee there, make a fire, and they will tell stories, with all the rest of the kids around there, or some of the young people. But they will always tell us, don't ask, just listen, just pay attention. And I will just sit there and listen to all the stories from all his friends, people from the north coming and getting together, or sometimes we will come here to Las Cruces and he will take us here, to visit some of the old friends and just to, talk and exchange stories. That's how I learn. But when you're young, you want to grow, you want to make money sometimes. Then you get married, you have to work, you have your responsibilities. So you have your responsibilities, but you never forget all the stories, And then when I came back I moved to California, I came back and I was looking to recover all my roots, all my, what I learned when I was a kid from my father and all that. Because I used to go with him all the time, He was always telling me stories. He was always telling me how to survive in the desert, what plants were good for eating, what plants were good for medicine, and how to build a shelter. Because even they had the jacales there, like they call it like pig house, semi-underground, like maybe 1/3 underground. But they also had some more land here on Conejos Méranos, close to Santa Teresa, across the border. And they had some like hogans underground, and they had a cover with branches and all that, put some blankets and put some dirt. It was nice because like during the winter, it was warm, it was nice. But even during the summer, it was, it was not hot. It will feel like, not cold, but it will feel comfortable, because you were like underground. It used to feel real good. But they also, when they were like farming in those islands, or just farming, because my father still had some farming land by the river, and he used to make some like kivas, like just made with willow, like we do the temazcales, like we do the sweat latches. And he would just put a lona, some blankets and all that. Man, down here by the river, it was nice too. And it was movable, too. Sometimes, like during the winter, we had to be around there, picking up some of the harvesting like the corn or anything. It will get cold. We will have like a fire out there sometime, but we will just move the kiva. We will cover the fire there, the fire pit and all that with rocks and dirt and all that, cover it and move the kiva on top of it and sleep around it. It was nice too. It was nice shelter, you know, it was, they had, you know, how to protect themselves from cold or hot or weather and all that.
Growing up, were you proud or ashamed of your Indian heritage?
When I was growing up, I was proud, you know, I was learning a lot of things because for me, I used to feel well connected with Mother Earth, with everything, you know, like growing. I felt like I had a lot of knowledge. Because even they used to send us to church to pray, but we learned how to pray out there, you know, outdoors. And some of the songs. And, you know, I like the way my father taught us, you know, that came from my grandfather. But we also participated in, you know, in some of the church activities and all that.
As you became a young adult or a teenager, was there ever any conflict in your identity with the rest of your friends? Did anybody ever make fun of you for?
Oh yeah, they were always making fun of me because I used to have my long hair and all that. So they were, you know, they used to call me Indio Patarrajada. They used to laugh at me. They used to tell me, hey, just forget all about it. It's in the past. There's no more Indians. It's all gone. But no, I really didn't care. Even when I grew up a little more, or when I started working in some areas, you know, when I started working as a truck driver, commercial driver and all that, we used to get discriminated in many other states up north and all that. But you know, I had that from me, that I was not, you know, I was kind of understanding the people. For me, was like ignorant people didn't know about, you know, our culture, our lineage and all that. But I never felt bad, you know, even I was discriminated on, or when I grew up when I was a kid. Nah, I was, you know, I felt like I had a lot of knowledge, better than other people, because I really I really knew how to survive out there, you know, in the desert or wherever, you know. So for me, I was very rich. I felt like I was very rich in, you know, in me.
You mentioned a while ago that the Organ Mountains were once known Sierra de los Mansos. And who gave them that name?
Okay, the other people, the other tribes, you know, they knew about that area, they know about this area. And they knew about, they used to be called the Sierra de los Mansos, because like during the winter, they used to go to the dripping canyons or some other canyons there to protect them, to protect from the northern winds, you know, and make their kivas there from the high winds. And also, you know, like from the river floods, they used to run up to the mountains, you know, stay there while the river will settle down and all that. But, you know, like many other mountains, many other places, you know, there's other tribes, other people, so they used to get the name, you know, that mountain is from the Apaches, this mountain is the Navajo Nation, like the 4 mountains in the Navajo Nations and all that. So,
have you ever tried to get the El Paso city government or Las Cruces city government to acknowledge that heritage about their mountains, instead of just saying Organ Mountains or Franklin Mountains, to say this was one called Sierra de los Mansos that belonged to an indigenous people here?
well, not really, because it was never raised there under the Manso Mountain. It was known as the Sierra de los Mansos, But when other settlers came to this land, like the Franklin was a farmer. They used to have a big farm, cattle farm and all that. They used to bring cattle from Mexico and all over. And his name was Franklin, and that's why he came, with the name of Franklin Mountain, because of that farmer, because of that rancher. And also, that's when the paperwork, the written registrations and all that, he started, putting them down, getting registered. Before, when the Indians and all, yeah, it was known. People was, had knowledge of, but there was no records on that.
Mhm.
So it disappeared. Like some of the natives, they don't want to continue with the culture, with the traditions and all that. They just get lost. There's a lot of people I know that they might be descendants, like might be the name descendant, maybe Apaches and all, but they don't want to continue with that. They just get lost. Yeah.
What message do you have to the young people about their Indian heritage?
Well, the message I have for the young people to find their roots, where they come from, and learn, from that. It's a treasure. It's something very high value, because when you know where you come from, and you're not just a citizen or some part of the city, but you have your lineage. You have, this, I don't know, this roots, yeah, especially roots, where they come from, and to be proud of it. Yeah, because it's not just a simple word that is called Indian. Hey, you're an Indian. No, it's a wrong word anyway, But we are native. We are the native people from this land. We are, descendants from cultures that from thousands of years. Yeah, but we have to find our roots. We have to go, and learn about it and be proud of it. Yeah.
Besides your Manso heritage, your Manso roots, you also speak English and are part of I imagine you're a citizen of the United States.
Right.
But you're also Mexican. You
Yes.
also speak Spanish and know the Mexican culture.
Yeah.
How do you embrace all that into what you are?
Well, since I am binational, I participate, with the native people in Mexico. I participate here. I have, but not just Manso, but also like Suma lineage from the Piro people up north. But what I have found out, what I have been finding, during my lifetime, that in our culture and our traditions, there's connections with traditions in Mexico and on this land, and even farther north, or even from other continents. Because we have had some other people coming, like from Iran, from Pakistan, or from Tibet, and they always see some connection in our ceremonies and the way we do our, prayers and all that. There's always something that connects us, especially this whole continent. In Mexico, there is a lot of similarities in our ceremonies, and that's the connection. That's what I have found, that connects us, and it's good, You learn a lot. If you pay attention to all that, you learn a lot too. You just keep it, because you're not the only one, or you're not. For me, I always say, this land is not my land, but I am from this land, and we are not just from this spot here, from this little area. We are part of the world, Mother Earth. we are, connected with everyone, maybe spiritually or our energy. It doesn't just connect us with this continent, with this world, maybe even with the universe. That's how I feel,
Is there any Manso or Tampachoa greeting or farewell that you can grace us with?
I can't remember. No.
Okay.
I have some words, but I lost them now. But okay.
Finally, what are the plans of the Piro Manso Tiwa tribe to advance this cause of Native heritage?
Like to get the recognition and all that.
Yes.
The thing is, it's, some people, everybody wants to be chief. Everybody wants to put their own rules. They don't wanna like share or their knowledge, what they know, and put it in one single. I'm gonna say like a council of the tribes. But once someone starts getting a lot of knowledge on this and that, they make the group, and then somebody is elected to be a governor, and they don't want him, and they separate, and they keep separating. They want to keep separating. Instead of getting all together and get recognized, and all what they're learning, all the knowledge, all their, but they have inherited from their families and all that, from the traditions or the culture, put it all together. But no, they don't, I don't know. I don't understand them, For me, I get invited to participate in the feast day with the Piro Manso Tiwa tribe in Las Cruz. I do participate, I like it. If I get invited with the Mescalero Apaches for a dance, I do. I get invited, I participate with it, And they ask me for some ceremony, I'll do it for them. If I get invited with the Mexicas, anybody else, to participate in their ceremony, I love it, It's part of it, because we are all the same. We are not different. We are all, like brothers and sisters, or we are all, descendants from Mother Earth. For us, for me, we are all together. And that's how I feel.
Well, thank you.